welcome to Latest Installment of My Dad Listens to This. I'm Juliet the daughter.
And I'm Kevin the dad.
And this week we are covering a comedian who most of our listeners probably have never, ever, ever heard of before. We're talking about, before there was the Portuguese Kids, there was the Portuguese Fireman. And we are covering his final album, Faz Buh Bye. So, Dad, what do we need to know?
Oh, we need to know that the Portuguese Fireman's real name is Steve Lopes. And he grew up in Tiverton, Rhode Island, and dreamed of being a firefighter when he grew up, which he did.
Yep.
Now, back in 2003, when he was living in Alaska, he created a PowerPoint presentation called Manny Claus is Coming to Town. He sent it back home, and then it started appearing all over the internet. He came up with the character of Manny, the Portuguese fireman, and he started doing the routine in Alaska, but no one got it.
Oh, well, yeah.
Not being a
No,
large Portuguese population up there.
no.
Now, if he was in Hawaii, that would have been a different thing.
Yes.
Anyway, he eventually moved back to this area, southern New England. He moved to Westport, Mass. in 2003, and he did his stand-up at a fundraiser to help friend Michelle Raposa pay for post-kidney transplant expenses. He got requests for more performances at fundraisers, and he started getting fan mail from around the world, as far away as Japan,
Wow.
believe it or not.
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm. He came up with the word "amedeguige," which is a mashup of English and Portuguese,
Mm-hmm.
and is commonly heard around these hair parts in southern New England.
Yep.
In March 2014, Steve fell 30 feet off an icy roof while crews were battling a chimney fire. Fellow firefighter Robert Manchester also fell while trying to prevent Steve from falling. Manchester fell 10 feet. Steve was able to return home in May of 2014. In July of that same year, Steve was Grand Marshal for the annual Westport, Mass. 4th of July parade.
Mm.
He returned to the stage in March 2016 at White's of Westport, which is, yes, where your mom and I had our wedding reception way back in 1996.
Back when the food was still good.
Yeah. Apparently, he went into retirement, but came out in November 2018 to perform at the fundraiser once again at White's. And he does have videos on YouTube if you want to check him out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I was able to really scrounge up on the internet over here. As for the album, Faz Buh Bye, the title, Faz Buh Bye, means do bye-bye, which is something you would say to a little kid when it's time to leave Vavô and Vavoo's house.
Faz Buh Bye.
Yeah, which is Portuguese for grandmother and grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I was finally able to tell the difference between the at which accent went where, they're both accented on the last O of each word.
Yep.
But for Vavô, you've got the little
Triangle.
triangle,
In
which
French,
I
it's
thought,
called the circumflex.
yeah, which I thought, okay, that looks like a hat.
Yeah.
Which is what Vavô would wear. So he's got the hat.
Yep.
And Vavô, she's got like what looks like the feather on,
Yep. A little slash.
on
Yep.
her head.
Mhm.
That's,
Aiguille.
it sounds stupid, but it helps me remember.
No, aiguille. Aiguille. That's what it is in
Yep.
French. Mm-hmm.
And this was Steve's last album, thus the title.
Mm-hmm.
And as for the cover photo, it's definitely a takeoff on the Beatles' Abbey Road. In this case, it's Steve and what I can only assume are members of his family. It's him in what looks like his
Kids.
dress formals.
Oh,
for
dress
firefighting.
uniform.
Dress uniform for firefighting. I'm assuming his two kids, one on each end. And in front of Steve is someone disguised as Vavô, dressed in black. And if you look closely, you can see the rosary. And the reason Vavô is dressed in black is because when Vavô dies and goes to see the Jews in heaven, Vavô, she wears black for the rest of her life.
Yep.
But over the years, the amount of time wearing black has gone down. Like when my grandfather died, my Vavô, she dressed in black for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter what time of the year it was. Could have been hot as hell outside. She was in black.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, the family is crossing the gates of the city monument plaza in Fall River. Now, the gates are three connected arches that mirror the Portas da Cidade, which means gates of the city, in Fall River's sister city, Ponta Delgada, the capital of the island of San Miguel in the Azores.
Yep.
The Fall River gates were unveiled in 2006. In total, they are 60 feet tall and 30 feet wide. The gates in Ponta Delgada were built in 1783. And let me tell you something.
Yeah?
The ones in Fall River, exact replica. If it wasn't
Doesn't
for the
surprise me.
background, you could not tell the difference.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Also in the background of the photo spans the Charles M. Braga Bridge, connecting Somerset, Mass. To Fall River.
Mhm.
It first opened in 1966. Charles M. Braga was a Portuguese-American Fall River native who was killed at Pearl Harbor. And the Braga Bridge has also inspired the riddle that's hilarious around these here parts. Juliet, what's the longest bridge in the world?
The Braga Bridge?
Do you know why?
Because it takes so long for construction to work on it?
No, because it connects the United States to Portugal.
Uh-huh.
Now, as for me, Jim and Diane brought the Portuguese Firefighter to my attention. They got me copies of 2005's Everybody and 2008's Faz Buh Bye and a Christmas CD, which I'm not sure where that is or if I even still have it. I would have to search upstairs and downstairs. I just have no idea.
You can ask them if they can make you a new copy.
Well, from what I remember, I didn't play it that much.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anyway, let's just jump into the skits or the bits or the tracks or whatever you want. Some of them are even songs. So let's just get right to it.
All right, first track, customer service. Manny is trying to ship chorizo and masa to his cousin in Alaska, but first, he's got to make it past Red X's automated customer service hotline. The robot can't understand Manny's Portuguese accent, so he has to jump through all these hoops to talk to a real person, including being disconnected and having to redial. At this point, you agree with Manny. I could make for walk there with the package. I get them more quicker. At the end, he tells them to stick the bloody package up their coo, which I don't think I need to translate, and he hangs up, potentially even shooting the phone, which Grandpa would have approved of. Funny for everyone who's ever dealt with automated bots, and for kids who've had to translate for their parents when making orders. Just be prepared for the really racist Chinese accent when Manny talks to the real customer care representative, Yashi.
Oh, I thought that was Indian.
I couldn't tell, but it was definitely somewhere in the East.
Okay, yeah, so Manny, like all of us, yeah, he's having trouble with the automated phone system, which I absolutely hate. And Jules had referred to chorizo, which is Portuguese sausage, not to be confused with chorizo. No. And
Nope.
masa is Portuguese sweetbread.
With an egg in it.
We'll get into that a little later.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, his Portuguese accent is so thick, the system keeps saying, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize that.
Please try again.
Which just makes him totally lose it. And he finally gets transferred to a real person, but is put on hold, of course. Then he gets disconnected, he calls back, and just loses it with the automated system again. He does get a real person, Yashi. Hey, like the Pokemon? No, not like the Pokemon. Then Manny tells Yashi to take the package and stick it up his queue, which is Portuguese slang for butt, rear, bottom, ass. And I gotta say, I did not know how to correctly spell that word until I had to do research on this. And I thought, I wonder if I can find it on Google.
Google Translate.
Which I did, and it's only 2 letters. C-U.
It's easy.
Yeah, it's easy. And yeah, like you said, this skit perfectly captures everyone's frustration from having to deal with these automated phone systems. And as you know, they can make me go from 0 to goddamn it in 3 seconds, maybe even less.
Yep. Reminds me of when Nana asked Sammy when he was little what his favorite word was in Portuguese, and he thought for 1 second, he went, "Coo!" All right, next track. Ask Manny. Manny has a radio show with a really catchy theme song. With his co-host Christopher James Farias on WPPN, the Portuguese People's Network, they answer questions from concerned listeners. This track gives you a lot of insight on what it is to be Portuguese American. For example, someone asks why in the house they bought, there's a heavily used kitchen in the basement and a brand new one upstairs that was definitely built in the 70s. Manny explains that the one in the basement is where you do all the cooking so you don't stink up the house, and the one upstairs is just for show, so everyone is impressed with you having such a clean kitchen when you made this big meal. And for proof, come to my Nana's house and see the kitchen in the basement.
Yeah, but you gotta give her credit. She does use the one upstairs.
Yeah, but she also just uses the fridge downstairs in the basement for storage. He also answers questions about how to prepare for tax season, see his cousin Joe and keep your mouth shut if the IRS calls, and what to do with too much chorizo that your vovó gave you, move into a house with 2 kitchens, or guys, use a piece of it on a date. This made me wish WPPN really did exist so I could immerse myself in the Portuguese language and just hear more of the Portuguese Fireman more often. I miss that guy.
I was very impressed at how this starts off with the theme song, and it almost sounds like the Andrews sisters.
It kind of does, yeah.
It does.
But there's a guy singing with them.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. But it's just so professional, just so well done. And they sing, "If you have a question, there's no need to fear. The Portuguese fireman, Manny is here. Ask Manny."
Yeah.
They do it a lot better than we do. Yeah,
A three-part harmony.
yeah. So yeah, he does have a moderator, and Manny will take your calls. And I thought that was funny, with the taxes. If you work under the table, there's no need to file. If you work on the table, Manny's cousin will definitely take care of things.
But the IRS makes a call, she keeps her mouth shut.
Right. And yes, why does the house have 2 ovens? All I can say is, you covered everything. You don't want to stink up the house. And yes, we had relatives that we would visit when we were kids, and they lived in the basement because the rest of the house was too nice to use.
Aunt Connie?
I'm not saying who it is.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not Aunt Connie.
Okay.
I don't think we could have gone down into the basement because it was probably just crammed with junk. She just kept everything.
Oh, never mind.
But yeah, and just kind of thought it was strange, but never thought to ask because we're just little kids, and it's like, hey, we're going down to the basement, and you realize everything you need to live is down here. The rest is just a showpiece, and it's in immaculate condition. But the one drawback is if you don't use stuff, it's just going to rot away over time.
Yeah.
That happened with another relative where they had the white parlor.
Oh, yeah.
And they never used it for ages. And then one day someone mistakenly went in there and sat on the couch, and the couch make for break.
Oh.
Just because
it rotted away.
It rotted away, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, Lisa calls and asks what she should do with all the shitties from a Vuvu. What should she do with it? And he's got a point. You can use this for any meal.
Yep.
You can use it for breakfast in place of bacon. You can put it in soupish.
You make a sandwich?
You can make a sandwich. You can grill it. You can fry it. It's very versatile. And plus, you don't listen to your doctor when he tells you it'll make your cholesterol go up.
What do doctors know?
Because Manny's Vavor ate it all the time, and she lived to be 88 and still had all her teeth. And if you're a guy and go on a date, you take the chorizo, you put it down your pants, the rest you figure out yourself, which reminds me of a story that was too good to be true, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
Okay.
Back when I worked at Almax, there was this guy, John Soito, who was an EMT part-time. And he told us how one night they got a call to go to Barry's, which was a disco in Warwick, very popular in the 70s and early 80s. And there was a guy make for pass out on the dance floor.
Oh.
So they had to put him on a stretcher, take him to the emergency room. He comes to and he says, "Whatever you do, don't take off my pants. Don't take off my pants." Passes out. So they decide, let's take off his pants. And he had the sausage link strapped to his leg, but he had it strapped so tight it cut off the blood flow from his leg. And you're out there dancing on the floor, and that's what caused him to pass out.
Wow.
Like I said, that just seems too good to be true, but you'd really want it to be.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Next track, Work My Coo Off. Now we do Manny's song parodies, which I was never as much of a fan of as a kid as a sketch comedy. Manny's message is very simple. He doesn't want to play, he wants to work his coo off all day and work some money, make some money. His teacher called him stupid as a kid, but now he works in her yard and overcharges her, so who's the idiot now? And he also addresses the Weird Al in the room, which I was not expecting, but was a nice shout out. And one thing I never noticed as a kid is the lyric about Manny fooling around in the basement with Medea's sister. Medea is his wife. I guess he does play around like the player he is. You're definitely a jerk if you do that, Manny. Again, the song parodies are never my favorite, even this one.
This is a parody of Todd Rundgren's Bang the Drum All Day. And in Manny's case, he sings about how he's going to work his cue off all day. And the stereotype is that every Portuguese guy has 3 jobs.
Yep.
I don't know how they do it, but they do. And he also sings about when he was a boy, he took a hammer in his hand, banged all the nails, and made a couple of grand. And like you said, you call me stupid? Hey, I'm going to charge you double, buddy. I come over your house, I fix things, I get rich. And yes, he does sing, "Hey, it's not Weird Al Yankovic over here, it's Manny." I find the song parody hilarious. It was a lot funnier than I remembered. And I got to say, the thing about the 3 jobs is true,
Yes.
or even 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when my dad and my grandfather came over here,
Mm-hmm.
they had to work all the jobs that
Yep.
they could
Yep.
to bring over the 9 brothers and sisters and my grandmother. So you figure that's airfare for 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'm sure they had to find a house and all that sort of thing. But yep, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's what they both did, and they got it done. And I definitely give them credit for that.
Mm-hmm. Next track, American Idol. The girls on Columbia Street say Manny's a good singer, so he auditions for American Idol with a Portuguese parody of Lou Reed's Walk on the Wild Side. I am not making this up, which as a kid I was too young to get, but as an adult, wow, that's a niche reference I really didn't expect. Just goes to show that you can never tell what someone's musical tastes are. It's totally not something you'd audition with for a singing competition, but I gotta say that Manny is way more tuneful than Lou. Lou gives me more spoken word poetry vibes, except in Venus and Furs, which I think he knew his voice needed to match musically. This sketch is also kind of its time because in 2008, American Idol was still a huge part of the cultural zeitgeists, and the artists who won often made it big. Now it's on ABC and it's all but forgotten. I think when Simon left, they didn't know what to do anymore. Anyway, the judges are speechless and not in a good way. Simon is the least impressed, and hearing Manny tell him off is very schadenfreude for everyone who watched the show and hated Simon back in the day. And I gotta say, Manny's British accent as Simon is pretty darn good.
Mm.
He sounded just like him and way better than the other two. Also, did Randy ever really hang out with Lou Reed? I can't picture it at all due to their personalities. I love this sketch so much for the humor and the nostalgia, and I don't even think you need to be a fan to enjoy it. It's just really fun.
Randy may have hung out with Lou Reed. He's hung out with everyone.
Okay.
I'm sure it's a long list. I can't remember if he's a drummer or I know he plays something. So he was
okay.
like, the hired gun.
Studio musician, gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, he just starts off with an a cappella parody of "Walk on the Wild Side," and the line that got me, I completely forgot about, was, and the Portuguese girls sing "Voo, voo, 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 voo." Fall down funny, but then crickets.
Yep.
And then he asks Paula, Randy, and Simon what he thinks. Not much. I think the Paula impression is hilarious. It's kind of breathy, and she tries to be polite about Manny, because apparently
really cute, but
I think on the real show she never had a bad thing to say about anyone, really.
I didn't watch it when Paula was on, so
I've never seen it. So Manny tells off Simon, tells him he's going to create Portuguese Idol, and Paula and Randy can come on his show, but not Simon.
Mr. Englishman.
Yeah. The impressions of those 3 are hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And full disclosure, I have never seen an entire episode of American Idol.
I saw a full season once when Auntie A was into it. Her and Mom and I would watch it every night when we were over at taking care of Jaju.
Yeah, I've seen like maybe commercials, and was always aware, like when something's crazily popular, I'm at least aware of like what the specs are.
Mm-hmm.
And you said the show is still on?
Yeah.
Is that with like Lionel Richie and Katy Perry and
Yep.
some other people I can't remember?
Luke Bryan, I think that's his name. I have no idea.
I think he's a country guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And then the only thing I remember was it was a big deal about this woman who dropped out because Katie said some unflattering things about her being like her housewife look or her mom look or something. I don't know. Anyway, next.
Dr. Gill. Turns out we Portuguese have our own version of Dr. Phil, Dr. Gill.
I think it should have been Dr. Gilles, but I can go with Dr. Gill.
Well, that's what they say in the sketch.
Okay,
good.
good.
Well, no, they say Dr. Gill in the sketch, not Dr. Gilles. Only unlike Dr. Phil, who's pretty scummy, Dr. Gill just calls it like it is. No BS or pussyfooting around. He doesn't care if you're a sobbing mess. He will put you in your place in juxtaposition with the chill jazz music. He can be nice, but he'll put things in perspective for you. Also, shout out to Portuguese Catholic Manny for not being a total homophobe for 2008. As he says, what a man does with his coisa thing is his business. And for every cloud they say, there's the line and then the silver. So tune in to watch Dr. Gill, Tuesday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your local Portuguese channel. I'd watch it if it was a real show, because after Love is Blind went down the tubes, I need a better trash reality TV show anyways.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Definitely a takeoff on Dr. Phil. A woman lost her job at Walmart and started drinking and drugging, and another woman found out after 25 years of marriage her husband is gay, and all Manny can say to everyone is, "Hey, you think you're the only one troublish?"
Mm-hmm.
Now you know where I get troublish from.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Gill don't take no crap.
Nope.
at all.
Mm-mm. Next track, Dunkin' Donuts got the shitties. Okay, there was a time in the 2000s when Dunkin' Donuts had a limited time shitties breakfast sandwich. And I remember knowing instantly when the ads came out that it was going to be bad. Because when you grow up with the real thing, like Manny, you can spot the crap a mile away. Dad and I have had this conversation about how Portuguese food hasn't really been Americanized in the same way Mexican food or Chinese food or Italian food has in the US. And that's mostly because in the community we live in, a large majority of the city is comprised of Portuguese immigrants and their descendants, Dad and I included, so all the recipes are preserved. I think the sandwich was as close to Americanizing Portuguese food as we ever saw. And the part we can relate to a little too well is the well-meaning non-ethnic barista calling it chorizo and saying, I hear it's spicy, which makes me cringe. At least my non-Portuguese mom knows how to cook it, unlike you, lady. But you can also feel the betrayal in Manny's voice because, as a naturalized New Englander, he loves Dunkin', and the fact that his two favorite things came together and did not work at all stabs him to the heart. Poor Manny. Funny sketch that pays tribute to one of our favorite foods and reminds us the original sausage will always be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we got Dunkin' Donuts got the shitties. And I gotta say, for these song titles, or bit titles, whatever you want to call them, a lot of them are spelled phonetically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess so. Someone picks it up who's not Portuguese, they can look at it and they can definitely sound it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, chorizo is spelled CHOURIC with the little thing on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but here it's SHUTTEESE.
Chorizo.
Chorizo, yeah. Anyway, the woman behind the counter can't pronounce the word chorizo. Chorizo. Okay, that's clue number one that this is not going to be good.
Yep.
But Joao is so excited he calls Maria to let her know. Then he tries it, and the woman behind the counter just tells him to be careful because, like you said,
I hear it's spicy.
Oh,
God. It's not that spicy, for the love of God.
it can, depending who makes it, it can be.
Yeah, but
I mean, if you're gonna season it with using the Portuguese seasonings like we have upstairs.
Yeah.
But there's a problem though, and Joao nails it. It looks like a red hockey puck that got run over by a steamroller.
Which is not what you want.
No, so that tells you right there it's been processed somehow.
It's crap.
Because it's a sausage link, and all you're gonna do really is you can chop it up, you can slice it. If you're gonna form it into a patty, there's something else in there that's holding it together that probably isn't good for any of us.
Mm-hmm.
And as for the taste, nope. Manny wants to talk to the time to make the donuts guy.
Yep.
And plus, he's going to send his vovô over to show him how to make chorizo, which probably isn't a bad idea. But like you said, I think the non-Portuguese person would think, wow, this is really good. I'm eating the real thing.
Nope.
Where the rest of us would just stand there and roll our eyes and go,
Oh,
no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
But, like you said, thankfully it's one of the few ethnic foods that has not been Americanized.
Mm-hmm.
Plus,
Mm-hmm.
here's a bonus. If you go to Hawaii, you can get the real chorizo at some of the fast food chains.
Yep.
Because there's a huge Portuguese population there, and they will call you out on it.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, they have Portuguese comedy teams out there. I am not making this up. I wish we had seen them when we were out there, but now it's a reason to go back out there again.
Next track, Massa Mash. Yep, a Monster Mash parody about Portuguese bread with the egg in the middle. Manny comes home hungry, and what does he want? The masa with a bit of butter, and he does the masa mash. Throw the other bread in the trash, which is so true. Dad and I have a rule that if there's no bread,
there's nothing to eat.
Correct. And we don't mean sandwich bread. We mean bakery quality bread. Bonus points if you get the Portuguese bread with all its fluffy goodness. This has to be my favorite parody on the album, especially when Vavá catches them getting crumbs on the floor and smacks João on the cou. At the end, you get some tips on how to eat masa properly. If this was on Spotify, I'd send it to all my friends 100%. So much fun.
Is there a way you can put songs on Spotify that are like outside the regular system?
No idea.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Anyway, masa, or the full name, massa salvado, is Portuguese sweetbread. And I'm a bad Portuguese because I cannot stand it at all.
No, you hate sweetbread.
I've tried it, but just something about like bread tasting sweet, it's not for me.
More for me.
You give me the pop shekel, which is Portuguese roll,
Yep.
regular bread, I am absolutely fine with it. I can
I
go
like
to
popsicle.
I can go to town on that, no problem. But sweetbread, I can't. I won't.
I know you won't.
Yeah, so it's I did the mash. I did the masa mash. The masa mash.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, throw the other bread in the trash. And you don't need too much cash.
Mm-mm.
It's a cute song, but for me, it goes on a little too long because I think we get the point quickly enough.
Oh man, I love it though.
No, that's okay.
Especially when Vavois comes in.
Oh
and
yeah,
busts
she definitely makes it worthwhile to stick it out. Hey,
Next track, Portuguese law.
dum.
The Law and Order theme can only mean one thing: law firm commercial parody. Portuguese people have multiple last names, like this guy, João Manuel de Sousa Raposa Ferreira Nunes Morgado. He's not a law firm, he's just one firm Portuguese guy with 5 names, which none of his clients can pronounce, but they don't care, because he got them the money they were owed after the rear-end car accident and the barium enema gone horribly wrong. Oh, barium enemas are a common theme for the Portuguese Fireman. More on that later. I have to say, the reason I really remember this sketch is because Mom was laughing so hard the first time we played it she couldn't breathe. So it makes me smile with happy memories. Moral of the story, as long as you do the work, who cares what your name is?
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely one of those personal injury commercials, and it took me the longest time, like up until a couple of days ago, to get the whole name memorized as, let me see if I can do this, João Manuel de Sousa Raposa Ferreira Nunes Morgado.
Correct.
Oh my God. Anyway, yeah, none of his clients can pronounce his name, but he gets them their money. And the best line, hey, your doctor put something in your coo, I'm going to make him pay through the nose.
No, it's your doctor put something in your coo that don't belong down there. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And yeah, it's not a firm of 5 lawyers. It's just one firm Portuguese guy with 5 names. Hilarious.
Next track, Blind Date. Minnie goes on a date with a woman named Samantha, who was featured in the previous track in the Portuguese law commercial. She was the one who got rear-ended at the price right and tells Manny about João Manuel.
Oh, okay.
And she's a former plumber turned stripper, and the two of them seem to hit it off. However, the sketch has an ending that hasn't aged well. Samantha, in a move that's very brave for her first date, reveals to Manny that she's trans. Manny freaks out and faints, and the sketch ends with Samantha asking if that means no to a second date, with a wah 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 playing in the background. When I was a kid, I thought this sketch was hilarious. But as I learned more about trans representation in media, I understood why the sketch might not be funny to some. Now, Manny's not the only comedian to have done this. One of the most famous examples is in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, when Jim Carrey finds out he slept with a trans woman and vomits in a toilet. There's even a scene at the end where everyone vomits in a toilet when they find out. In almost every video essay about bad trans representation in media, Ace Ventura is brought up. So why is this in bad taste? Well, in an article about trans representation in film by Meredith Taluzan, it depicts trans women as deceitful and liars. She also makes a good point by saying the disgust is twofold. 1, that the woman is trans, and 2, that the man is disgusted at himself for being attracted to her. And sadly, trans women and men still aren't represented all that well in mainstream media today. So what would have been a better way to write the sketch with Manny's blind date? Well, maybe a cultural difference that's offensive specifically to Portuguese people, but not so much to everybody else. Think Wallace and Gromit when Wallace's love interest can't stand cheese and Wallace's heart breaks. Not even Wensleydale. Maybe she does tell Manny she's trans, and instead of fainting, he just totally doesn't get it in a real himbo moment, like when Mr. Kim met a non-binary person at Kim's Convenience and he couldn't wrap his brain around it. Or ask a trans comedian what jokes they consider funny. The bottom line is, be careful about making someone the butt of a joke when they're being treated poorly by the world around them every day. The sketch also shows how much humor has or hasn't changed and what we can do to make jokes for everybody to laugh together. And the character of Samantha seems really nice. Hopefully she finds a guy who loves her for who she is while also making her coffee order right.
My favorite line is, it only took 3 cans of Aquanet to make her hair look that good.
Yeah, and a couple tubes of mascara.
Bye-bye, Ozone. Faz Buh Bye, Ozone. Yep. He's a fireman, and she's an entertainer at the Cadillac Lounge, which is a real place in Providence. On the seamy side of the city, near the where they keep that thing, that pile of God knows what that's held down by tires and the biggest tarp you've ever seen. And apparently, like, they're breaking all these EPA laws and nothing's being done. And there's that smell when you're driving by the highway. And I think, yeah, they go for a few more minutes off my life. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you mean you take off your clothes for the Manish? And then, you know, it turns out that she makes more she makes more money doing that than when she was a plumber, and Manny makes her pass out because he just doesn't know how to deal with this. He's just surprised.
Next track, Portuguese Patriots Anthem. José Choriciano
That's hilarious.
is here to sing the Portuguese Patriots Anthem. Ah, yes, back when a New England Patriots fan meant kicking ass and taking names and winning. I feel like this would be the perfect Patriots anthem in general, just because New England sports fans are diehard, and anything exonerating Brady would have been fine in our book. It's also interesting how we hear someone shout, boo, at the end, which is very European soccer. Makes me sad that we will never have Manny riffing on the World Cup between Portugal and Spain. That would have been epic. Nice to send out the Patriots with fun wordplay for the lead singer.
It basically sings the praises of the New England Patriots.
Oh my God,
Sorry, the New England Patriots to the tune of the Star Spangled Banner. Because hey, it was 2008, and it's okay. I find it a little labored, and unfortunately, it's quite dated now because Tom's not around anymore, and they're like a 500 team if they're lucky in the good years. And as I tell your mom, someday you're just going to be able to go up to the gate 5 minutes before game time and buy a front row ticket. No problem. Really cheap. And the one thing I noticed at the end is the fade out is way too long. It's like, end. Please end. Please, why are you not ending? Okay, you ended. Thank you.
Next track, Portuguese Realtor. Manny Soares is a Portuguese realtor trying to sell a house to a non-Portuguese couple, so we already know how this is going to go. Now, from a non-Portuguese perspective, rusty water, a leaky basement, and mold would be a no-go. However, to a Portuguese, it's a fixer-upper, and there's nothing we can't fix. Which, Dad, you fix most of the stuff around the house, so I want to know where you, the Portuguese, draw the line. Maybe Manny knows deep down this house is crap, but he still puts a Harold Hill spin on everything. Even the dead mouse in the corner, he claims is Sparky, the dead pet hamster. But hey, Sparky don't look too much pretty good, so he's gonna knock off a couple of dollars. The comedy gold of this sketch is him taking this place that's falling apart and finding a lie for each one. The water on the floor being the cat taking a piss gets me every time. And most of his lies aren't convincing. It's just the nonplussed delivery with which he delivers each one. Totally not caring if these people hate it. He's gonna sell this house come hell or high water.
Hey, I'm going to put you in a house today before you go. To me, this is the Portuguese version of Bob Newhart's Buying a House skit.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically the same thing, and it's just, I guess, a universal theme or universal concept where the realtor is going to do whatever they can to sell you a house that you just would not want to buy in the first place. Yeah, rusty water in the basement because the water hasn't been turned on in a long time. Plus, that brown stuff, that's all minerals. Lots of good iron for you. Leaky basement? No. Sweaty walls. Hey, buddy, you just put a dehumidifier in there, take everything. Mold in the bathroom? No, that's the stucco. And all I can think of is Blake telling us about how they found mold in the ceiling because they've got the stucco ceiling in one of those rooms, and he's saying, no, that's definitely mold. But Manny says, hey, it's supposed to look like that.
And my favorite one that I didn't mention is, hey man, what's up with that hole in the ceiling? Oh, there was a track light up there, the kids were swinging on it, and they pulled the goddamn thing out of the wall.
Yeah, but now it makes for good ventilation. Yeah, you get the air coming in. As for the mold, you just put a little Tilex on it. No, you have to call like one of those Serve Pro services to come over and demold the house. And yeah, hey, dead mouse in the living room. Hey, you found Sparky the hamster. And like you said, hey, you looks so pretty good over here. So obviously no sale. As for me, I will make attempts to fix stuff. Obviously, I'm not your grandfather who could just like fix anything, but I will take a decent shot at it. The one thing I'm really leery of is anything that's electrical because I don't want to like
Go booma booma.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want you or your mom walking in, finding me on the floor like this.
Or for us to turn on the light and all of a sudden, boom.
Well, because the last time when the guy from Ferreira Electric came over to do the replace the light in the apartment and replace the switch in the office, he actually had to shut off the electricity, those circuits, so he could, not forget electrocute over here.
Yeah.
I have done like I did the garage light, and I did the sensor when we make for going at night. that one was a little tricky. That one I thought, I hope I don't get zapped. I hope that I don't get zapped. But yeah, there are some things where it's just like, no, call in a professional.
Yep.
Or call Manny.
Next track, the Vuvu 920 GPS. The Vuvu 920 has features such as turn-by-turn directions, text-to-speech street names, rerouting, traffic, and voice recognition. So this GPS would be good and bad for me. Good because it's firm. I tried a feature on my Waze app once where Karamo Brown from Queer Eye was my GPS, and it was not helpful. In 500 feet, turn right, or wherever the journey takes you. No! Tell me exactly where I need to turn in 500 feet! I got rid of that feature quickly.
Wait a minute. They have like famous people that'll give you the directions?
Yeah. And you could change
and they
different
put
voices
their own
too.
spin on it?
Yeah.
Like Vuvu GPS?
Vuvu's not on there.
I know, but I'm just saying like he's saying 500 feet or wherever the journey takes you.
Yep.
Oh, I would be sweating.
Yep. And one of the features of the Vuvu 920 is being scolded when you screw up, which will ensure you make the mistake again. You won't make the mistake again. Oh, where you go? You missed the turn over here. Now I gotta do the recalculation. Später. Okay, listen. You know what? You no pay attention to me. You're just like your grandmother. Your avó. You no pay attention. Stupa. And the iconic when they ask, "Va para casa?" "Sure, buddy. Va para casa." Hey, you want to make for go home? Hey, buddy, you must be pretty stupid if you gotta ask the machine to figure out where you live. You do know that, right? However, the feature where you can get good Portuguese food would have me making too many detours, and the directions in Fall River are perfect. Don't take a right on Rodman Street or you'll end up in the Flint, the bad neighborhood. And what makes this at the end is the OnStar safety feature, where when you get in an accident, it broadcasts your signal and Manny screams, "Ai Zazoosh, ai Zazoosh, ai Zazoosh." This definitely takes me back to the physical GPS devices such as Garmin and even OnStar, which was really popular in the late 2000s. When we do Manny's older stuff, we'll get to OnStar, but this is a GPS I'd buy for my car 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yep, It's definitely the Portuguese version of Garmin or Waze. I had mentioned Garmin to someone. I think it was Diane. She said, "What the hell is that?" I said, "It's
My GPS.
a GPS." What about Waze? That's on your phone. I said, "Well, this is what we use," and she just thought we were out of our minds. And then I got hooked on Waze, and I thought, "I love you, Waze."
Yep.
Because you show me the ways
Yep.
to go home, and you don't criticize me about it.
Yeah.
And I like how it's like, okay, you don't drive down the road 3 miles. It's okay, you push down the road 3 miles, then you're gonna make for right. And like you said, make for left on Rodman Street. You know, make for right. It's bad neighborhood over here, which your mom can attest to.
We both can.
And you don't want to do rerouting because you will get called out on it. Like, "Oh, hey, pa, well, you make for go. Hey, buddy, you missed the turn over here. Now you got me all confused." And yeah, just like your grandmother, listen to me. And if you want to go home, you're not so smart if you can't remember where you live. And the thing is, I think of that every time I press
the home button.
The home button. Like, oh my God, it's going to yell at me. Because I didn't pay attention, on the way up. If I'd done that, I'd know how to get back. But no, I got the machine doing it for me over here.
Yep.
And yeah, the feast feature is great because Portuguese feasts at churches during the summertime are huge.
Yes.
You can work a circuit from like June until almost the end of September. Every single weekend, some Portuguese church is going to have like
a festa.
The festa, which is like bands, food, raffles. I know there are places that'll have like the Greek festival, but it's like you get 1 or 2 at the most. We had 2 at the most here, but
the Portuguese festival is weeks on end.
Southeast New England, it's its own season. That's when you know it's summer. And that emergency feature is hysterical, and it's a hilarious skit overall, and it is so true to life.
Next track, Manny visits the dentist. There are 2 things about this sketch I really like. First, the actress playing the dental hygienist. She has the cadence of those employees down back, how they try to keep their voice light and soothing, even if your mouth is in the worst pain of its life, almost a little too laid back sometimes. And she's also got the voice of like when you're trying to pay attention to what the person is saying, but you're distracted by your work. "So how are your kids?" "Oh yeah, that's good. They must be getting very big. Okay, we're gonna do this now." Second is the bit you frequently see in dentist comedy where you ask the patient what's wrong while working on their mouth so everything comes out muffled. The part that's funny to Portuguese Fireman listeners is the return of Dr. Botswana, Manny's new dentist, who did his barium enema in a sketch a couple years back, leading Manny to say, "Ai, Zazoosh," as he realizes this guy is going to be working on his other end. Funny callback sketch for Portuguese Fireman listeners. And also a lot more fun if you've had dental work done. Also, shout out to Dr. Malak for never making me afraid of the dentist's office.
Yep, so Mr. Medeiros is at the dentist, and the one thing I think is fall down funny is you can hear Sailing by Christopher Cross playing in the background.
That's what it is?
Because they've got the calm music to try to calm you down.
Yep. Like when I went to the dentist last time, they were playing REM's Man on the Moon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for a while they were doing like 70s easy listening.
Yep.
And that would just make me even more tense in the chair. And then I don't know if one of the technicians said something to Dr. Molak, but all of a sudden the music changed.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's Sirius XM radio now. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had, what was it? The Bridge, the best of the 70s. I'm like, no, it's going to be the Eagles and James Taylor, and it's just going to make me more nervous and more tense. This is not helping at all. Damn it. But yeah, just that, so hearing that song playing in the background, you realize these people did their homework.
Yep.
And yeah, there's that old trope, I guess if you want to call it, of, you know, that the patient always has the mouthful of cotton and they're being asked 87 million questions and you cannot understand a damn thing they're saying.
Yep.
And then when a dentist comes in, I completely forgot that it was his old nemesis, Dr. Botswana, who gave him the barium enema on the first Portuguese Firefighter CD. And I think that's pretty amazing that you can go from being a proctologist to being a dentist.
Yeah.
So he's got you covered from one end to the other.
Yeah.
If he had to. And then he turns that drill on and forget it. That is still the worst sound in the world.
Even when you're numbed up.
And even if it's not happening to you, you know that it's happening to someone else, and it's just, And I haven't seen the movie yet, and maybe I'll force myself to see it.
Marathon
Man.
I don't know. I don't know if I can. I love Laurence Olivier to death, but I don't know if I could do that movie. Oh boy. Yeah. Someone said, don't ever watch that movie. You have to go to the dentist the next day. That was like the time when I watched Sweeney Todd and I had to go to a haircut at Kathy's the next day. I trusted Kathy with my life, but after Sweeney Todd, I was watching where she put the scissors.
Oh, yeah. It's like when your mom got me a gift certificate to some barbershop and she says, maybe you can get a shave. No, maybe not. I'm not going to trust some stranger with a blade at my throat. There's just no way. I talked to Andy about it too because he had gotten the same gift certificate. He said, no. There's no way. I'll get a haircut, but I am not getting shaved like that.
Next track, Manny's Fishing Report. This is probably my least favorite sketch. Uncle Joe would like this one a lot more as it's Manny Medeiros giving us advice about fishing on the southern New England coast. I like fishing for fun with my uncle, but I'm nowhere near as hardcore as he is with picking a spot, getting the right kind of bait, and looking for a specific kind of fish. So if you're into fishing, listen to this one and you'll have a lot of laughs. If it's not your thing, you can skip it. Oh, and be prepared for a Steve Irwin reference. I still miss that guy.
Yeah, I think this is supposed to be a takeoff on Charlie Moore's fishing show on Nesson, which is the New England Sports Network, for you non-locals listening. They telecast most of the Red Sox games and most of the Bruins games. Not all. They probably should do all.
What about the Celtics?
No, I don't think they have a contract with them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I'm surprised they don't. Yeah, this skit is almost 8 minutes long, and it just feels longer. I looked at it as like an endurance test. I'm sure if you're like really into the fishing scene,
Daniel, there's some jokes you'll understand.
Yeah, and I just am not. So it's easily the most skippable track.
Next track, Manny joins the gym. Manny made one wrong comment about Maria's butt, and now he has to go to the gym. He meets JJ, the Minister of Pain, who insists that Manny needs to get into shape. But as he learns, being a Portuguese handyman with multiple jobs means that he isn't as in bad shape as JJ originally thought. But that doesn't dissuade JJ from trying to find a way to milk Manny for all his money. But as JJ quickly learns, you cannot get away with overcharging a Portuguese, or even trying to get him up at 5 a.m. on his day off to work out. This sketch, a parody of Fitness Bros, is the reason I don't go to the gym. It's a waste of money. I get my steps in at work every day, and doing a little bit of exercise early in the morning before work keeps me in shape. And the big reason I love this sketch is Manny putting a tough guy non-Portuguese in his place. Get him, Manny!
Yeah, he goes to Workout Wonderland, and he already works 3 jobs. He thought that was enough to lose weight, but he made the mistake of telling his wife Maria that, hey, you know, got a coup, you got a kufa. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I could not find that online. So yeah, basically he told her that she needed to lose weight, and she told him if she has to go to the gym, he does too. And he gets the hard sell, but he really is in good shape because JJ's doing the numbers, and he's like right where he's supposed to be with body fat, like 18%.
And body mass index is average too.
Yeah, because he's just working his 2 jobs over here. Because he said, hey, you know, I make for work. I do stuff. I know make for play the world of aircraft. I thought it was funny. But he's told he could be healthier for $400 more a month. No, that's just not going to happen.
That's too much money.
I mean, it's like my dad. I mean, he just worked and worked and worked, and that guy was as strong as anything.
And he had the Popeye muscles.
And he could do the flagpole trick.
Yeah. We have photos of that.
Which is unbelievable. The flagpole trick, for those who don't know, is he would grab a pole and he would lift himself off until he was horizontal.
Yep, we have photos of it.
Perpendicular, is that what you would call that?
Perpendicular to the ground.
Perpendicular to the ground.
Basically, Grandpa would stick out the side like an American flag.
Yeah, he would hold up his own weight, and it was just unbelievable.
I saw him do it once when I was really, really little, and I'd forgotten about it until Nana showed me that old black and white photo she has of Grandpa doing it, and it's like, oh yeah!
It's a hell of a trick. He could have been a gymnast.
Again, he had Popeye muscles. I'm not joking when I say that.
No, he did.
Grandpa had guns.
Yep. Oh yeah, he did.
Yep.
And he knew how to use them.
Yep. Oh, okay.
Responsibly.
Yes. Next track, Weather Manny, Final Report. Weather Manny was Manny's weatherman character, and this sketch has aged a little too well. Manny says someone upstairs is messing with the thermostat and addresses climate change. So he calls it a wonder weather day, as he wonders what the hell the weather's going to be like. And Manny makes a good point. Portuguese Americans have always been green. Not green horns, green. He can give 2 examples. Epa, close the light, and close the refrigerator door. So yeah, we Portuguese are environmentally friendly. Something tells me if Weather Manny ever came back, he'd be even more appalled with the weather, and even the Manny pack he recommended wouldn't be enough. Sobering sketch about climate change, but pat yourself on the back if you're a Portuguese who always closes the light. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I've turned into my dad with that. Closing the lights, make for close the door. Hey, that's a refrigerator. It's not an air conditioner. Close the door.
The food in there's not going to change. Close the door.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep, that's just what we grew up with, and I've passed it on to you. And I'm so sorry. Up to a point.
What do you mean you're so sorry?
But probably when you start paying an electric bill,
Yeah.
you'll be like,
Close the light!
Anyway,
yeah. Tyler, close the light!
Yeah, the weather is going crazy. And someone upstairs, must be Jesus, because his father's no make for look, is playing with the thermostat. Could be the global warmer. And the manufacturer doesn't work too much pretty good anymore. It definitely wouldn't have worked about, maybe 2 weeks ago?
Yep, and we had 2 days of 80-degree weather.
And then it was cold as hell the next day. I mean, it was just like, where is this coming from? You know, I told your mom, this sounds so naive. I said, how could this happen where you're in the 60s, very low 60s, high 50s, then you get blasted with 2 days of 90s, and then you're back in like the high 50s, low 60s?
Climate change.
I guess so. Yeah, and we Portuguese, we were green before anyone else, even though we really didn't think we were. It just all came down to the monies.
Yeah.
You make off shut the light. As we would hear from your grandmother, hey, your father, he doesn't work for the electric company.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not getting the discount.
Yep.
So no wonder he calls it Wonder Weather Day, because I wonder what the weather's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what you do? You stick your head out the window.
Yep.
And then when you stick your head back in, you make for close the window. You don't want to get the heat or the cold.
Check your phone for the exact temperature and how it's going to progress throughout the course of the day. That's what I do.
I mean, there's that one that's like right on the opening page or the home page, whatever you want to call it.
Providence Journal?
No, I'm not sure. I think it's like a national thing, but then I'll always check like the local one, and there's usually some difference.
Remember that service that WPRI used to have where you could dial them up and see what the weather was like for the day?
I would do that, and then
it got disconnected.
Then the internet came along. Yep. So yeah, his solution is to pack an umbrella, sweater, winter coat, bathing suit, and raincoat. You put it in your car, and now you're set for any weather. And most importantly, don't forget the slurdish.
Forget the slurdish.
Which is Portuguese for long underwear. Mm-hmm. And yes, I did a search on that, and all I could come up with was quackish.
Quackish underwear.
Which is just a general term for underwear. But for long underwear, I was just striking, and I could not find that word. So I'll have to do a little more. But yeah, this is Manny's final weather report because he just can't predict that anymore. So he's got to find another job. I found this skit to be funny, but I thought it went on a little too long. Some of it was like a little repetitive. Like some things he said at the beginning just kind of showed up again at the end. I thought, cut it down maybe in half. Still funny though.
Final track, Manny's sleigh ride. As Manny says, every year he puts something on the website for Christmas, which he always did. He tells the kids to be good, reminds everyone not to drink too much, and sings Sleigh Ride. Or rather, the Portuguese version where it's so cold, everyone slips and falls on their coo, and Vavu goes missing, and oh my god, we need an ambulance. Reminder of how Christmas can be stressful, but I love the holidays, so I think I'd listen to this after Christmas is over and I need to laugh.
Yeah, Manny tells the kids to be good, or Santa won't make for come to your house. And yeah, he did put stuff on PortugueseFireman.com, which I checked, and unfortunately, it does not exist as a website anymore.
Oh, man.
But like I said earlier, he does have stuff posted on YouTube. I think if you just type in Portuguese Fireman, it's mostly Christmas parodies. So then we get this parody of Sleigh Ride. It's okay. I thought it was a little too wordy. Which kind of prevents it from being really catchy. I mean, everyone knows Sleigh Ride, the tune itself, but the words, it's just, meh. And that's where we end. This was his final CD.
Overall, I still love the Portuguese Fireman. I mean, I grew up listening to all of his tracks on loop over and over. There'd be some days on my MP3 player where I wouldn't listen to any music. I would just listen to his CDs.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say overall, most of his comedy has aged well. Some of it hasn't. And I'm not saying, it's of its time as an excuse, but, they're just jokes that, just haven't aged well and we don't hear anymore as people learn and do better. But, I gotta say, there's the Portuguese kids now, but I would have to say if there was no Portuguese Fireman, there probably wouldn't be any Portuguese kids today. So, to Steve Lopes, if you're out there, I just wanted to say thank you for so many laughs. It's always really helpful when you can laugh at the foibles of your own culture, and, it just helps you love it all the more. And I would say, if you're a non-Portuguese, will you understand the jokes? I honestly don't know because, growing up Portuguese, I could only know the Portuguese perspective, but if, you listen to our review and you think this sounds like something you want to listen to, enjoy it. And I hope you do enjoy it too.
Yep. I gotta admit, I was not looking forward to listening to this.
What?
Because I never thought it was as funny as Everybody.
Okay.
The first CD.
I like this better than Everybody.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But it was a lot funnier than I remembered.
Yep.
And I think I'm gonna put it on my MP3 Juliet. Because I've got the first one on it, on my iPods and all those outdated devices, which I'm still going to hold on to. But yeah, I think this is definitely iPod worthy. Yeah, Steve Lopes, he was definitely a pioneer in Portuguese humor around southeastern New England. But then, like you said, he definitely influenced the Portuguese kids, but he also got eclipsed by them. And this also, I mean, you could also apply that to bands like Kraftwerk or Portishead. They were groundbreakers in what they did, but their progeny just outdistanced them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no fault of their own. They can probably take things only so far, and then someone comes along and builds upon that, which, you want that to happen.
But you don't want the other person to be forgotten entirely. And I'm sure if you ask the Portuguese kids, like, hey, did you ever listen to the Portuguese Fireman growing up? I'm pretty sure most of them would say yes.
Oh, yeah. And you're not going to agree with me on this, but I say Faz Buh Bye is an okay CD.
Oh.
But Everybody, believe it or not, I think is Steve Lopes' Revolver.
I'd have to re-listen to Everybody in order to make a judgment about that. But we'll have to see when we do that.
I mean, I'll admit, like towards the end of that first CD, it kind of loses a little steam, but there's so many Stone Cold classics on that.
But also the audio quality on Faz Buh Bye is a lot better than Air Buddy with some of the tracks.
Did you have any problems listening to the very last track?
I think that just had to do with him recording it at the time, because that track has always sounded like that, even when we first got the CD.
Well, I'll tell you what I did was I make for spray the invisible glass on it, and it cleaned it up a little bit. But as it was playing, it started going back into that staticky sound again. So
It might just have to do with how old the CD is and the material is.
yeah, it could be.
All right, as always, thank you for listening to my dad listens to this. If I like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz over here. If you follow me on the social media, I post all the episodes there. If you're friends with my father, email him and he'll send the episode right to your inbox. And then, if you make for like what we do every week, leave a little change in the Ko-Fi tip jar over there. All right, as always, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We're out of here. Talog.